We're joined now by legal practitioner, managing partner, Hill City associate, Ahmed Abbas. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you.
Maybe the underlying statement would need to, underscore this. For brutally killing its own citizens, and this Apple 8, that we have come to know them as, justice was denied them back home here, but it's taken the ECOWAS court to get them justice. What's your take on this?
Thank you very much. It's been a tradition. Extrajudicial killing is nothing new in Nigeria. It's they were fortunate enough that they had so much publicity. But I can tell you as a legal practitioner that it is something that is inherent in our system. It's a daily occurrence. Day by day, it's a daily occurrence. But it's, they are fortunate enough that the West African, the ECOWAS Court of Justice has actually, delivered judgment in their favor.
Okay, let's look at the rulings and the provision of the laws that we have here in Nigeria. One of what the judge, the lead justice said was that these people were defenseless. The Nigerian army, according to section 217 of the Nigerian Constitution, where they are meant to protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria and act where you have cases of aggression. People who are defenseless, was that an aggressive act?
For me, as a person, I want to sympathize with the victims. Like I said, under our law, section 33, we all have a right to life. And the laws are very explicit, very explanatory, self-explanatory, that you cannot take the life of a citizen except under certain conditions. You can't. First and foremost, one of the exceptions is that except a competent court of law passes such a verdict, or probably in the course of the pursuit of a criminal, a minimal force trying to restrain him result into his death, they are excusable. Or in the defense of your life and property, because the law also gives you the right to be able to protect your life and your property from invaders. If you use minimal force to prevent somebody from overrunning your family and overrunning your life, if it results into death, you are also excusable.
Minimal force would mean no use of weapons and guns and all that?
Well, if a man comes into your house with a gun and you also have access to gun, you are permitted under the law. You are permitted under the law to use.
Okay. In most cases, that's when civil cases, but when it comes to, say, security forces, government forces against the civilians.
Yes, that is where I'm going to now. That, like I said, I sympathize with both parties. Why I'm saying this is because, the scenario, the circumstances under which the military were operating. I'm not giving excuse, because they were defenseless. And when you have weapon and you see a man that is defenseless, that is not armed, the best you should do is your arms up, you are under arrest. Except if the man acts in such a way that you think your life is in danger, then you are permitted to use minimal force
and this
to
is
incapacitate
such a person.
But in a situation where people were lying down, defenseless set of people, you enter their abode and shoot them without even opportunity for them to explain who they are and what they are doing. It's inexcusable under our law.
But according to the Nigerian government, their defense is that these people, the soldiers, the security forces acted in self-defense. But according to the court, there was no evidence that these people were harmful in any way.
Not even a single gun was recovered.
The judgment of the court is based on the facts adduced before the court, the evidence adduced before the court. If you are telling me, a rational man, an objective man, that you are acting in self-defense by using weapon on somebody who is unarmed, it's illogical. It's
Indeed.
untenable.
And
It's
another,
indefensible.
yeah, the DSS actually said they were tipped off that these people were Boko Haram, which brings us to the issue of information gathering. Between then and now, would you say there's been any kind of improvement when it comes to authentic information gathering in the fight against insurgency in Nigeria?
Well, I should say our security agencies are actually trying their best given the circumstances they find themselves operating. For information, intelligence gathering, you were tipped off that somebody is an armed robber, that somebody constitutes security risk. That doesn't give you the right to approach the person and open fire on the person. No, you should take some precautionary measure to find out whether the information you have at your disposal, people could set up one another. So you have to be very smart. That's why they call it intelligence gathering. You have information, you should have the capacity to sift through those information and know which is authentic and which is not. Because for so many reasons, people can give information. What will it cost me to pick up a call if I have a grouse with some set of people and I know where they are, and call the DSS or the police and say some armed robbers are operating in a particular area? So when you are approaching such kind of scene, you must tread with caution.
Indeed. Isn't that where training comes in? The training that the security operatives get.
Yes.
To be able to sift through what is real and what is not.
That's what is called intelligence gathering. You gather information, sift through which is true, which is false, so that you can achieve your objective.
But are you concerned about the attempts to actually cover up in this case?
Like I said from the beginning of our conversation, it's a norm. I'm sorry to say I'm a Nigerian, but I owe the state a responsibility to bring to the fore issues that are prevalent within the system. Extrajudicial killing unlawfully is rampant within our security apparatus. It's a daily occurrence. The police do it. The military do it.
Okay, so the Amnesty International, of course, corroborating what you have just said now, says accused the Nigerian army of the use of lethal and excessive force to apprehend criminal suspects as well as disperse protesters, which brings us to the issue of the Delta Imo Biafra issue that just a case that just happened a couple of weeks ago. You will expect that after such report, after such damning report from international bodies, even the U.S. State Department made such report and allegations against the Nigerian army and the Nigerian security forces. Nothing has changed.
We live under a culture of impunity. And I think it's a hangover of the military era that institutions believe they are not accountable. Face any direction. I say this with every sense of responsibility. Go through our system, interface and interrogate most of our public institutions. They do not believe in the philosophy of accountability. They act with impunity. They do whatever they like. How many times have you seen the courts convict police officers for murders? How many times? Or how many times have you seen the police authorities sanctioning their own men for acting in unprofessional manner? How many times? Indeed. And there are plethora of cases.
Indeed, I mean, one is reminded of the Alu 4, Apple 6.
Yes.
I mean, so many that you can't
even begin to... And the other man in Lekki of recent that was brutalized by police officers who said he violated the traffic regulation or something like that, that turned out to be messy.
What do you think is responsible for this seeming rise in, police brutality? Not just within Nigeria. I mean, if you look across to the United States, about 1,100 and so, such cases, police on black men. You have, Black Lives Matter and all of that coming out as a result of the Ferdinand, issue and all the rest of them. What is responsible for this?
I'm going to categorize, those scenarios into two. There are clear cases, you see, because policing is a highly challenging enterprise. Let me create a scenario. You have a policeman, I'm talking of sometimes in civilized crime or in real life-threatening situation. You have a situation where a police officer suspects that one is a criminal. He approaches the man. Of course, the man is probably not armed. And the police says, okay, hands up, you're under arrest. And you see the man dipping his hand into his pocket. The police has a split-second decision-making situation there. Is my life under threat, or is this just a joker? At that point in time, the decision could go anyway. In certain circumstances, the police might think you are trying to pull out a gun.
That's
and
a
in
conclusion.
self-defense, he might end up shooting fatally the man who eventually dies, only for us to discover that he doesn't have any weapon. Under examination, a layman on the street will say, why did he kill somebody that was unarmed? But you have to know that the police officer in that circumstance actually could think his life is under threat and he had to act in self-defense. But there are also situations, even in America, I read of a history of a story where police officers invaded the house of an elderly woman that they thought was selling drugs.
Wow.
Because she's the only one, a 78-year-old man, she was the only one living in the house and she had a gun. She fired a warning shot thinking they were intruders. She didn't shoot at them directly. She shot into the air as a warning shot to say, I'm armed. The police officers fired sporadically, shot the woman, killed her, and when they discovered that, oh, they were in error, instead of admitting their professional error, they planted drugs
To cover up.
to cover up.
Wow.
It was one of the officers under cross-examination that broke down, that confessed that, look, my conscience can't take it any longer. This woman was not armed and we found no drug there, but we had to plant the drug to exonerate ourselves. Those are situations that we can actually, separate. There are times our officers act unlawfully.
Bringing it back home, are
Yes.
policemen, security operatives, are they under pressure and they, take it out on the, civil populace?
The institutions we inherited, that's the institutions we inherited from the colonial masters, their philosophy remained the same.
Which
even
is?
till date. Yes. That's why it is we versus them. That's why you see a typical police officer sees you on the road. He sees you as just a non-entity, even though you augment his salary. You augment his, because part of your tax goes into paying his salary.
Indeed.
He sees you as a pack there. With arrogance and with disrespect.
All right.
Because they were apparatus of oppression. If you trace the history of the Nigerian police, it was established principally by the colonial masters for the domination and suppression of people they were agitating for their freedom. So it was a brutal apparatus.
And decades,
they don't brook nonsense.
Decades after
Decade
independence,
after, we
the
did not
orientation has not
dismantle-
changed.
We have not dismantled the philosophical foundation of the police force. It's a problem.
Or other security operatives,
All
services
institutions,
for
all
that
institutions. You walk into any government institutions, they see you as we versus them. No respect for the Nigerian person.
Indeed. Just towing that line,
Yes.
the fish rots from the head.
Yes.
When you have crises where the commanding officer, where the executives give shoot at sight order, crush them kind of comment, is that helping matters?
It's not helping matters at all. It's not helping. That's why I said, you see, we need to dismantle the philosophical foundations of our institutions and infuse in them a service-oriented culture where you see the public as clients and customers, and that no amount of gimmick or advertisement or branding you can do. When I have a taste of your misconduct, I do not care how much you spend on advertisement. I go back with a bitter taste, and tomorrow you do some adverts and try to brand yourself as, no, you can't. I've had opportunities where I had to correct police officers. I said, listen.
But don't you think this reorientation should start from the politicians, from the executives, because most of the time they give these orders. Don't you think it should start from them?
How
really?
many
Because if they get it right, then they can give the right
How
orders.
many of your political elites even understand the philosophy of leadership.
Well, that is why we are
That's
having a forum like this.
Are you getting my point?
Yes.
How many of them? I'm sorry to say.
So that service mentality is not
Most
there.
times, they do not attend your public schools. Their families don't attend the markets you attend. They don't ride on the buses you ride. They don't drive on the roads you drive on. They don't attend. They are million, they are in a world of their own. The leadership class, I'm sorry, in Nigeria, without any apology, do not understand the philosophy of leadership. That leadership is about service to the people. But most times, because they are so sick, they are so scared of their future, and they do not even know any reliable scientific method of guaranteeing their future or generating wealth. They see public offices as an opportunity to amass wealth, probably just to guarantee their future. Because the reason why most of your leaders steal is, one, they think by stealing they could guarantee their future.
And safeguard
And the
posterity.
future of their
And
children.
safeguard their
Well, let's,
posterity.
before-
And
before
secondly,
we-
because they don't even know. They lack the fundamental knowledge of wealth creation.
Before we go into the wider ramifications of this, now in the case of engaging terrorism, in the war against terror, and you have, bodies like Amnesty International, accusing military forces of, violating human rights and all of that, where do you draw the line between actually, fighting this war, executing this war, and making sure that you end terrorism, and, protecting, fundamental human rights?
I belong to the pragmatic school of thought. There is nowhere in the world, whether you are fighting conventional war, you are fighting terrorism, you must have collateral damage. You can't, it's inescapable. I must be very frank. I do not want to, I'm not saying some of those collateral damages are not avoidable. They are, with better precaution. But you can't avoid collateral damage. Let me give you a typical example. Even if you go to Israel sometimes, what do you do when terrorists mount their missile machinery inside the school compound or under the basement of a hospital?
Exactly.
And they are shooting from under the basement of a hospital into your country, killing thousands of people. What are you going to do? Fold your arm?
Like has happened,
Are you getting my point? Are you going to fold your arms and say, well, the weapons are in a school compound or they're in a hospital, so my citizens should be dying? At that point in time, you have no option to take out the equipment. But in so doing, sometimes in civilized crime, they will announce and broadcast to people within that vicinity that leave, there's going to be an operation. Some, maybe out of patriotism, will refuse to leave. We are ready to die for our country. In that circumstance, they have no option than to take out those weapons, and definitely there will be collateral damage.
Okay, beyond those scenes where you have conflicts going on, where you have war going on at the moment, and of course the collateral damage, like you pointed out, where cases that Amnesty International also mentioned, like we earlier talked about, has to do with interrogation, use of torture to get information from these suspects, and at the end of the day, they end up losing their lives, which the Nigerian Army and the Nigerian police will always go back to section 33, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, where you say, okay, the right amount of force. But sometimes, don't you think the Nigerian Army misconstrue this particular section and dehumanize this suspect?
Or just take advantage of it?
If you, as a Nigerian, we see them on the street every day by day. Sometimes they could just be scuffle of traffic, driving problems and all the rest of them. And what you see next is police officers, military men come down with horse whip Nigerians. I don't know whether you were aware of a naval officer. Sometimes they go in Ogudu and then Ojota grammar school bus stop that brought out a pistol to shoot somebody, an Okada rider. Shot him in the mouth. In the name of the Okada man crashed his car. Some few years back, it happened. The challenge we have is that some of our law enforcement officers, even the military men, some think they are above the law. The uniform, instill in them this above the law mentality. They just believe because they have access to gun, they can do whatever they like and go scot-free. And I think the challenge we have had over the years is simply because our law enforcement mechanism, the judicial system, is too weak, and not courageous enough. It's not courageous enough because we are not having many sanctions against some of this lawlessness, and that's why they go about thinking we can do anything in this country and go scot-free and nothing will happen.
And speaking of the judicial system, this judgment by the ECOWAS court, is it an indictment on Nigeria's judicial system that, well, we say every now and again,
you can appeal to the ECOWAS court.
We always say it's the hope of the last man, but in this case, there's a display of,
it's an indictment.
Yes.
Of course, in the Bori case also, didn't you see? He was absorbed in Nigeria, but a foreign court found him guilty.
Okay, quite a lot to talk about, but we're going out on TVC Entertainment now, so our viewers there can continue with TVC Breakfast on TVC Nigeria on Concert, channel 190. DSTV, it is still 418, GoTV 45, and ACTV is 510. So hook up and let's continue this conversation.
Welcome back. It's still TVC Breakfast, and we're looking at the fine imposed by ECOWAS court on Nigeria. $3.3 million for extrajudicial killings. Of course, our guest in the studio is Ahmed Abbas. Looking at, so many similar cases in the past, do you think there's a need for, the Nigerian government to revisit some of the claims by the military and even the police, to unravel some of these cases that have been, largely swept under the carpet?
Well, thank God that we have a three-part, legal judicial system: the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. For victims, my encouragement with them is they shouldn't lose hope in the system. They should continue their fight, take it from the High Court to the Court of Appeal and to the Supreme Court. Sometimes along the line, they will get justice.
Okay.
Yes.
Talking about justice, it basically has to do with evidence.
Yeah.
And the Nigerian army seems to be some ICT frenzy this day, where even some of this extrajudicial claim we're talking about have been videoed, documented, and posted on social media. Is that meant to help the Nigerian army, or it's a way of displaying their ineptness?
I mean, it should
religious
even help,
group?
it should even help the cause of the victim in being able to adduce sufficient evidence to establish the fact of the extrajudicial killing. So to me, I think we should take advantage. I went to counsel some elderly truck drivers some time ago. I said, well, in a digitalized world, you must take benefit of those, technology. If you say the police harasses you, people delay you for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, then most of you should invest in the acquisition of these technologies. And when you are going out, once one of your partner has a problem or the other, let him beckon on you. You stay very far away and record whatever is happening. It will help your
In
case.
the US, for example, they're using body cameras.
Body
now
cameras.
For
you see,
police.
that's where the issue of, research and development and planning, strategic planning for growth. Now, if you observe, the issue of the body camera came out of the plethora of cases of white on black killing. The society, because it's a progressive one, sat down and said, look, we have a problem. How do we solve this problem? Oh, we're going to... So many ideas, were generated. And of course, they came to the conclusion that one of the measures we are going to adopt is our policemen will be forced to wear body cameras, so that at any point in time, if there's a fact and issue relating to how you related or conducted yourself vis-a-vis the public, will have to extract the information from your body camera to see whether you conducted yourself in a professional manner or in an unprofessional manner, which is good. Sometimes I just discover, like I said, Jack Onde, within 79 and 83, I don't know which particular year, adopted or invented the even and odd number
days.
Plate numbers in trying to solve the traffic congestion in Lagos. How many years ago? 30-something years down the line. until date, we've not been able to find a scientific approach. It only tells you we do not think, we do not sit, we do not strategize, we don't plan in this country. A progressive society must constantly ask, when we have a problem like this, the brains, the think tanks, they should sit down, formulate, generate ideas on how to solve societal problems. You get my point? That is what we should be doing in this part of the world. We should constantly, and the government should also be benevolent or humble enough sometimes to know that, look, all the men you put in your cabinet may not necessarily have the ideas. I tell people in leadership that, look, the first function of a leader is to inspire. The second function is to be able to sniff for men and women in the society who warehouses solutions to the problem you are having. They may not be members of your cabinet, but I tell you, there's no problem bedeviling this country that we do not have men and women that can generate creative, homegrown ideas in solving those problems. Why do you think the Americans open their doors to 50,000 people from all over the world via this free lottery? They are simply trying to tap into the talents scattered all over the world to make their own country richer. That's just it.
Indeed. Indeed. Now, so how do we, coming back home to this issue now, how do we avoid the danger of punishing innocent people in the name of winning the war against terror? Because, I mean, the security operatives here have given, their alibi as, wanting to take out these people who, in quotes, are claimed to be part of the Boko Haram link.
It comes back to training, professional training. That when you are going after criminals, you must take preventive measures to ensure that you do not just, color everybody or taint everybody in the color of the people you're actually looking for. Because in any circumstance, if criminals commit an offense, run into a neighborhood, the likelihood is that if you are not very careful in search of the robbers, you are likely to encounter innocent people. So it behoves our profession, our security agencies to be more professional in their approach. It's just about professionalism. They should avoid this mentality of all Nigerians are criminals and they are corrupt, because that's usually their philosophy. They look at everybody. The average policeman, let me tell you, the average policeman sees every Nigerian as a criminal. Wow. I'm telling you honestly. That's why you walk into a police station, God help you if you are not from a blue-blooded environment. He simply sees you as an object of exploitation, victimization, and dehumanization, because he sees you as a criminal. Sometimes the way they even talk. I've had to counsel police officers. I said, no, you do not talk to Nigerians as if everybody is a criminal. Even
beyond the Nigerian, let me just try and paint a picture. While I was still in school, we had issues with some of the security guards in the school, and they had their walkie-talkie, and one of them was talking to another guard and said, and they called themselves a tiger. We've caught a prey. Who are the prey? Students.
Yes. Yes.
We were the prey, and they were the tigers. And I go home and I was telling my roommate, can you imagine? This is what they call us.
Yes.
They call us prey.
Yes. Bloody civilians.
Yeah, bloody civilians. That's what the military men call you, bloody civilians, because they just think they are there on the high horse, on the mountaintop, and we are just bloody rats in the valley. So who are you to question them? I've seen military men, bring down passengers, vehicle owners and all the rest of it, and ask them to frog jump. Yes, on the road. For daring to walk gently past where they were mounting a roadblock. I was on my way to Abuja from, I was going to the airport. I was in a taxi, and I was the last checkpoint before the toll gate at the airport. I was making a call inside the car with the glasses up. He waved down the driver, asked him to park in front and come down. So I waited for about 10 minutes. I couldn't see the driver. I walked up to him. I said, any problem? He said, yes. He said, you were making call. That's why I'm talking to the driver that next time if you bring people, you should not make call and not rest of them. I was, he was talking. And I looked at him. I'm sorry to say, I'm not trying to disparage him. Well, the way he talked, I just said, well, at least I went to school a little bit, so let me just. So I had to engage him. I said, believe me honestly, you are there for the public interest. if ignorantly anybody is doing anything that does not constitute a danger to your life,
You educate them.
educate them, enlighten them.
Do you
That's
think,
all.
you know, the reason for this impunity that we see is because the population is largely illiterate and ignorant of, you know,
laws.
number one, their rights, you know, and
How
number
to seek
two,
redress.
confidence to actually seek redress?
I, on a different fora and podium, I think about 2 weeks ago, and several weeks back and months, I say it loud and clear. The reason why we find ourselves in this mess is the average Nigerian is a coward. We lack the courage to force and compel our institutions because we are too conscious of our comfort zones. You are going to work and a policeman or a federal road safety officer stops you, waves you down, check your documents, it's okay. And the next thing, he's looking for what is not missing and all the rest of them because we are too much in a hurry to get to where we are going and all the rest of them. We don't want to lose our job. We don't want to be reprimanded. And the man delaying you, all you need, the next thing you see an average Nigerian does is to say, Oga, I beg now. Immediately you say, I beg now. The man says, I've seen a prey here.
Yeah.
Then he
becomes a tiger.
he tightens the noose around your neck because he has seen somebody. But if you have the audacity sometimes to look at them in the face and say, please, can I help you? What else are you looking for? If I have had to tell a federal road safety officer who accosted, because they are there for the protection of the citizen and doing their professional job. But once I discover that you are going out of what you are supposed to do, I look at you straight in the eyes.
Well, the challenge really is how do you get this audacity in a system where there's hardly public enlightenment? I mean,
okay,
none of that is
we'll
really
keep
happening.
trying our best, but for a forum like this, please take your constitution and read, especially the fundamental rights. Even the police sometimes, I'm sorry to say, some of them don't even know
their boundaries.
the details of those rights.
Of the rights.
Like, for example, the law is very explicit that when a suspect is in the custody of the police, before he makes a statement, he's entitled to a legal practitioner of his choice for interface before questioning.
The Miranda.
Yes, but most times when the police officers arrest a man and the lawyer appears, they see him as an enemy.
But is that not what goes on in the EFCC as well, where a suspect is being taken and no representation, and they start questioning and confessing?
That's why I said the impunity that goes on in this country. The public institutions are the apparatus for dehumanization of Nigeria. I will say it anywhere, even to the face of the president. Our institutions do not have value for the Nigerians. You go to your passport office. The passport office is very close to you in Alausa here. You go there and see how immigration officers that should be handing passport to Nigerians with respect and with courtesy exploit and convert Nigerians to ATM machine. Sometimes my heart bleeds for this nation. And how do you want to get the best out of people you dehumanize? You can't. Wow. I keep telling the Nigerian police force, when you dehumanize Nigerians and tomorrow you expect them to be a friend of the police and to offer you information, they will not do that. You don't. Except you respect them and confer value on them. Then you bring out the best in them. That's how institutions build patriotism. The Americans are the most arrogant set of people all over the world, I tell them. But their arrogance is predicated on the fact that, look, if you arrest an American man in Niger Delta, if the Avengers today should arrest an American man, I'm telling you the ambassador will be on his way to Bayelsa to have a contact with the governor and say, please, this is Barack Obama's order. I want that man alive. And I tell you, if they have to bring in bomber jets from anywhere to rescue that American, why would they not be patriotic?
Now, is this a reflection of how much value we place on Nigerian lives? Is this what is playing out in all of these scenarios that we find?
Absolutely. Because as a citizen, sometimes when I interface with all institutions, where do you go to that you feel proud as a Nigerian? Travel out of Nigeria, go to your airport and see what your immigrations do to Nigerians who are traveling. Look, if I'm dehumanized outside the borders of Nigeria, I can accommodate it. Say, well, my country already has a bad name there. I can. But I don't understand where my own immigration officers, either on my way out or on my way in, will subject me to torture. I've had the encounter. They search and look for what is not missing, and at the end of the day, what do you carry? What do you have for the boys and all the rest of that? I say, for God's sake, do your job like a professional. Clear, if there's any question I have to answer, allow me to answer. But if not, after checking my luggage, bid me by.
All right.
With some respect and some dignity.
Yeah, talking about getting information from the people, Nigerian Army has made a call to the Nigerian populace to be, so to say, custodian of security. And a couple of lawyers, Femi Falana, actually had criticized that it is not the job of the Nigerian person to, Nigerian citizens to secure security. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I disagree with that, because security
is everybody's business.
Everybody's business. I was in Germany in August last year, and we traveled to Austria with a rented car. We came back to Germany at about 3 a.m. and we're going to park the car from the rental company. There was nobody on duty. The guy said, so who are you going to hand over to? He said, you just drive into the garage, park it, lock the car, and drop the key inside the one box. I said, okay. We got there, we parked. Lo and behold, somebody some few meters away opened a window. The room was dark, I can't see who was there. And after some few minutes, we left, the window closed back. My host informed me. He said that could be a retired old woman there, or a retired elderly man there. That's what they do all over in Germany. He said, don't be surprised if they had seen anything untoward taking place. They would call the police right from their room to say, we observe some movements here and there. In some civilized crime, they do not allow walls, fences that we barricade ourselves. The essence is that your neighbor could be your keeper. In case they find somebody friendly with your door for the next 30 minutes, they can't have access and all the rest of them. They've been documentaries on CNN where a man was trying to, in fact, Barack Obama had to invite the black man because he was trying to, open his door. He couldn't open in time, and somebody just suspected him, called the police, and he was arrested. Taken to, he was arguing with the police. Why would you arrest me in front of my house and all the rest of them? But the police didn't have the time to, listen to him. As far as we are concerned, you are going to the police station. We are going to interrogate you. If you find you are not guilty, we'll release you. So eventually they took him to the police station, found that he wasn't guilty and all the rest of them. But he resisted arrest and it was rough handled. But people started shouting, no, black, white on black, racism and all the rest of them. It was resolved. But for community harmony, Barack Obama had to invite the man to to White House to placate him and say, no, this is not. But I watched the scene. I followed the story, and I know that anybody in a society where people are conscious of security, what was right. If you are the owner of the house, you should take time to explain. And by the time you adduce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 evidence, the police officer will know.
Okay, so if you say you agree that the Nigerian person should be Nigerian citizens should be their brothers' keepers, as it is, do you think the Nigerian citizens are educated enough? Like we're trying to point out, talking about the issues of right and how to go about this. Do you think they are confident enough to even make such calls through to authorities? Do you think they trust the police enough to put such calls through to authorities?
It's not even the Nigerians that should. Look, it's a relationship. If you want somebody to be friendly, take the first step to be a friendly person. That's how it works. That's how it works. You want to have a customer and a client that you will retain, demonstrate that you have what it takes to render service, quality service, excellent service to that person. It's a relationship. It is the work of the police to go out there and instill confidence in the Nigerian people. When Nigerians walk into your police station, stop treating them like guinea pig that you are experimenting with. Stop dehumanizing them. Stop exploiting them. Like, let me say it on air. Don't they tell us that bail is free? Don't they tell us bail is free? But let anybody, let any DPO, let any area commander, let any CP come to this studio to tell the public that bail in all stations in Nigeria is free. And I will tell him that before God and man, you are lying.
We'll remember to ask that question anytime we get the opportunity, whether it's the Commissioner of Police himself, Owosheni, or any other police officer. Ahmed Abbas, legal practitioner, thank you so much.